Greetings, citizens of the earth. Welcome back to the macro. It's absolutely beautiful weather right now. It's like 54 and just sunny, and I was like, man, I gotta come out here and number one, get a little sunlight, but also talk about something that I think is just really important. What is crypto and blockchain? And look, before I go any further, just keep in mind that none of this is financial advice whatsoever. I've never been, nor I am a financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor. So if you're seeking financial advice, seek out the professionals. This video is going to be strictly just for educational and entertainment purposes only, guys. But it's something we got to talk about. What is crypto and blockchain? So first, we're going to talk about what is crypto or cryptocurrencies. So I know the one that a lot of people are really the most familiar with is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin has some interesting properties to it. Bitcoin arrived on the scene in January of 2009, just after the major world's financial crisis, the global financial crisis in 2008. So it arrived in 2009, and sort of the mainstream narrative, if you ask maybe some of the people in the crypto space, or maybe just in general, maybe there's people that are not in this space and know a little bit about what the general consensus is, which is a individual named by Satoshi Nakamoto released a white paper on Bitcoin and outlined how the Bitcoin network functions and its deflationary properties and how the mining process works and so on and so forth. And so the initial, I believe, idea behind Bitcoin, and by the way, don't you think that's quite impeccable timing, isn't it? You have bailouts across the board, money being printed, right? Because the banks and a lot of these institutions were in great trouble. And of course, all that was pushed on to you and I, the taxpayer. And I remember for me, it didn't have a significant impact because I wasn't old enough, I think, to fully understand what was happening. I was an adult, but definitely a young adult. And so I believe the original idea behind Bitcoin was supposed to be digital money, right? An alternative to the fiat currencies that we have today. And fiat currencies continue to lose their purchasing power over time. Just to give you a quick little historical fact here. Since 1913, right, in the United States, the inception of the Federal Reserve, right, was created in 1913. And since then, guess what's happened? Our US dollar has lost what many believe to be at least 98% of its purchasing power. 98%. Still 2% left. But anywho, that was the original idea behind Bitcoin. It was supposed to be a new form of money, a new form of payment for goods and services, something outside of the centralized control of the government. And of course, there's been a lot of development since then. But crypto and Bitcoin, just as the example, that's what cryptocurrency is, and it exists in a certain realm, right? It exists in a certain space. Now, like most networks, Bitcoin is the native asset on the Bitcoin network. So think about it this way, right? The United States, what's our native currency? The US dollar. Bitcoin works the same way on the network or on the blockchain. So what is blockchain? What is a blockchain? So imagine in your mind, right? Kind of just picture it in your head for a second in a digital sense. Imagine several blocks, and there's kind of just chains connecting to all of them. And each block, you have a certain number of, let's say, envelopes, and these envelopes represent transactions. So in the Bitcoin network, for example, I think it's currently sitting that Bitcoin, the network can only handle 3 to 5 transactions per second. So when those 3 to 5 transactions are completed, it creates a new block, right? And then once that block's been completed, it creates a chain-like mechanism to connect to the next block. So all of these things are connected. But the unique thing about blockchain is that it's decentralized, right? No one central authority can shut it down. You can't. Because you have all these validators, right? All these different nodes, or you could even think of it as different workstations, right? Running across the globe. So in order for someone or something to cause something like that, I mean, what you would really need is a worldwide internet outage or something like that on a massive scale to bring down the Bitcoin network. And of course, things get congested and stuff when the network is being used and stuff like that, especially when there's a lot of buying, a lot of selling, a lot of movement, with in wallet activity and such. But that's what that is. And the other thing that is that it's permissionless, so it's an open source. How you doing, man? It's an open source network, and that's one of the amazing things about it. Permissionless, decentralized. It's something that's significantly hard to take down. It's coded in such a way that no central authority can remove it. And what you have to understand is that, sorry, I got a little distracted there for a second. The Bitcoin, right? That is the native asset of the Bitcoin network. And this is the thing you must understand about cryptocurrencies, that they don't just exist by themselves. They flow, right? They move on a blockchain network. That's how they function. Now, blockchain, going back to blockchain, right? Remember, which is the underlying technology for a cryptocurrency. What are the use cases for blockchain? And this is where, guys, I'm telling you right now, you're not going to hear stuff like that if you tune into the mainstream propaganda ministries. They're not. What they usually do is they take people on there that are either super bullish, right, for Bitcoin and crypto or whatever it is, and a lot of the times those people get attacked during those interviews. They do, or they say that, Bitcoin really has, use case. Why would anybody, want to use it or believe in the technology? It's just weird. They don't explain the underlying technology behind it. You're not going to find it on there. That they're not going to explain it to you. So anywho, what are the use cases for blockchain? Well, it's, as these things are happening on the blockchain network, it's storing information, and it stores information in a very unique way, a very immutable way. It can move value too, through what many would call tokenization. And you're actually seeing it today. The tokenization of gold is actually happening, believe it or not. The tokenization of gold. Right, gold's hard to move, right, in terms of its physical form. And, right now we have gold and silver ETFs, which is just a representation of the physical asset, right? It's not the physical asset itself. It's a paper derivative is what people would call it. But blockchain is unique because you could have, let's say, a 10-ounce bar of gold, and that exists, right, in the digital realm on the blockchain, and the blockchain will tell you, well, who owns that gold, right? There's no question about it. Once the record is made, it can't be changed. It's a unique way that things can be tokenized. Real estate is also being tokenized as well. And that's what the tokenization means, that you're taking a real world asset and you're putting it on the blockchain so that it can be easily moved. So there's that. Believe it or not, it's being used for supply chains, tracking things for the supply chain. It's really, really, really powerful, guys. And again, the adoption for this has been slow moving, but the institutional adoption is coming, and it's coming fast. They're beating their drums, just getting ready for it. And so unfortunately, what will more than likely happen is that, and I'm just going to use Bitcoin as the example, when it's getting ready to when it surpasses its previous all-time high, you know what's going to happen? On the news, they're going to tell you to buy it. They're going to tell you to get in. But that's not the way you invest your money. And again, this isn't financial advice, but keep this in mind, right? If you want to go to the store and maybe you want to get 2 pairs of pants, right? A couple of clothing items or whatever it is, maybe something that's expensive, but you're looking for it on a discount. Well, isn't it better at the store to pay 30% less, 40% less for that particular item? That's one thing I learned in investing. You want to buy when things are low, and then eventually down the road, if you hold it for a significant period of time, whatever asset that is, you sell it at a higher price. Buying it at the top is not where the real wealth is made. Not at all. It took me years to figure that one out. Years. It's not something they're going to tell you when you sign up for a 401k plan. It's not going to happen. But anywho, blockchain has a significant role to play in terms of its technological use cases and utility. And for some reason here in the United States, we've kind of dragged our feet in terms of how we define these assets. I think the new phrase that the SEC is using is they're calling them crypto assets. So the regulatory framework is really strange here in the United States, but across the globe, in places like Singapore, Japan, Hong Kong, Ireland, the UK, all these different places, they've already structured their legal framework on how they treat these and regulate these assets. But the US, for some reason, we're struggling just to get that done. And something tells me that's not by accident. Something tells me that the regulators have something up their sleeve on how they're gonna do this. And so one of the big things on the regulatory side right now is a lot of investors, especially institutional investors, they're waiting for a Bitcoin spot ETF approval. And that's going to be a game changer, an absolute game changer. You want to know why? Because instead of you owning the asset itself, and that's another video for another time, right? Cryptocurrencies, when they're bought, you have some options on how it is to be stored, and you can self-custody it yourself. However, just an example for the Bitcoin spot ETF, what that's going to allow is that, again, it will allow hedge funds, 401ks, pension plans, all these different things to actually potentially have a small allocation to Bitcoin in that plan, in that retirement plan, that investment plan, whatever you want to call it. But again, the problem is, just like with the gold and silver ETFs, you're not going to own the asset itself. You're going to own the paper derivative, right? You're going to own the it's not even paper, because right, you're not holding it in your hand, but it's going to be the digital, fake representation of it. It's not the asset itself, right? An exchange traded fund, an ETF, is just a representation of whatever it's supposed to represent. In this case, it'd be Bitcoin. And that's going to be an absolute game changer for the space, no doubt about it. But anyway, I want to step aside from Bitcoin. So I think we covered, and this is my first time trying to articulate this and explain this, especially on camera. So forgive me if I'm not doing the best job, but I think I've tried to explain as best as I can what crypto is and what blockchain is. And here's where it gets really exciting. And I'm going to say this first. When it comes to new technology, especially disruptive technology, guys, things that disrupt the incumbents, things that disrupt the old guard, right? The old money. It's very resistant at first. And so I'm going to kind of break this down. I forget who said this exactly, but it kind of goes through these phases when it comes to new technology. And the internet went through the same thing. And you know what the first use case was for the internet when it came on the scene? It was just email. That's what it was looked at. That's what it was looked at as its primary use case, was just for email. Now it's for everything, right? But anywho, someone said that it's resisted, right? It's a nothing burger, nothing to see over there. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's nothing to see. It's resisted. Then people out there that get their friends together, their lawyer buddies together, the lobbyists together, right? And then they sue it, they attack it, and then they realize the technology is not going to go anywhere. What are we going to do? Or maybe they already realized that from the beginning. So then they get the regulators together, and then they regulate it. And then once it's regulated, right, once they have made the framework and how it is to be treated, and then they join it. And then they join it. There are many, many examples of that happening today. So aside from that, one thing I would encourage you guys to do is to check out a cryptocurrency called XRP, which is the native asset for the XRP ledger. XRP and the XRP ledger, it's going to change the world. It's going to change the way that value moves in the digital space. It's going to change it. Here's just one reason why I believe that, just one. So the XRP ledger, if you're moving value, if you're using it to send transactions, and that's the interesting thing about blockchain, is that you can move fiat currencies as well. You can move fiat currencies back and forth. So on the XRP ledger, you can move value. I guess how fast that this can be done. Processing and settlement time combined together, 3 to 5 seconds. Now, when you go, let's say to the grocery store, you go to a retail store, whatever it is, you go to Home Depot, you go somewhere to buy something with your debit card. Yeah, it says that the transaction was approved, but there's all these things that have to happen on the background for that transaction to settle. It usually takes about a day, right? Because if you log on to your online banking afterwards, it'll say pending, and then the next day it'll say cleared or whatever it is, or that pending just goes away. That takes a whole day. The XRP ledger can do it in 3 to 5 seconds. And the interesting thing about this is our current international banking system called SWIFT, it hasn't been updated for the most part, some messaging standards here and there, but it hasn't been updated since the 1970s, I believe. Someone in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but think about that. Think about how much our technology has advanced over time, and yet we still have this old banking system that's still operating. And guess what? When you're sending particularly cross-border transactions, right? Transactions between different countries, has a 6% failure rate, and it can take several days for settlement time. That's why blockchain, XRP, is going to change the world, guys. And again, none of this is financial advice, but I would really recommend you to check this out and do your own research on it. Come up with your own conclusion. But to me, I see this as one of the biggest opportunities, in my opinion. And there's some other ones as well. But it's gonna change everything. And here's the reality. The reality is that there's gonna be people out there, there's gonna be governments out there, there's gonna be entities out there, there's gonna be corporations out there. They don't want you in this space, guys. They don't. They want to have you in this space when you've gotten their ETF. It's just the facts. It's just the facts. But anywho, I think this is going to be my last video for tonight. It is still December 26, 2023, and I'm just counting down to 2024. I really am. Beautiful day out here, and I just appreciate you guys watching. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you again soon.